Well, we can go live now to Jerusalem, and international relations expert Bar Yoshafat. Welcome to the programme. First of all, do you think that the timeline presented by Russia's military has given us a better understanding of what exactly went wrong?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. I have to begin by saying I'm speaking on my behalf, and as an Israeli citizen, I actually do feel very sorry for the death of 15 servicemen from Russia. No, I disagree with the argument that Israel has the full responsibility. I would like to put it in a broader context. The Russians sold a missile system to the Syrians, which the Syrians are using in order to take down Israeli aircrafts. And they've missed Israeli aircrafts and they hurt a Russian aircraft. So to say that Israel is to be completely in charge of this would be far from reality. It was a Syrian missile hurting a Russian aircraft. That's number one. Number two, to say that Israel does not appreciate the Russian cooperation, I think is also very far from reality, because since 2015, Israel has conducted over 200 airstrikes, and it was with complete cooperation with Russia. Now, unfortunate incidents do happen, but by percentage, it's less than 1%.
Well, if we go into some of the details here, indeed the language that was used by Russia, Moscow says that it was warned too late that Israel was carrying out operations in the area literally minutes before. Do you agree in that respect that either negligence or a lack of professionalism on Israel's side could at least be a factor here?
I definitely think both sides need to do whatever they can so these incidents will never happen again. However, look, I wasn't there, but the Israeli committee said something completely different. It said that the Israeli planes were already landing when the Syrian missile system went off. And I really don't understand the argument of Israeli aircrafts hiding behind a Russian aircraft. That's not how the airspace, that's not how airplanes work. That's not something that you can do in the military. So at the end of the day, you had a Syrian army firing missiles at a Russian aircraft. To say that Israel could have done something better, maybe, I hope so, so these incidents will never happen again. But to say that it was Israel's responsibility, ignoring the fact that it was a Syrian missile sold by Russia, that's ignoring reality.
Just one of the points you touched on earlier, Bar, Russia said that it had frequently notified Israel about its actions to avoid clashes, more than 300 times. In fact, well, Israel seldom did. We're talking about 25 times out of 200. Why the disparity there?
Well, first of all, again, I think Israel does appreciate the cooperation with Russia, but we have to remember Israel has a border with Syria. Russia does not have a border with Syria. And if you're an army serviceman from the Israeli side, you hear Russian military on the army radio. So there's a big question of what is it that Russia is doing there. I don't think every military operation that Israel will have to conduct in order to protect itself. And I've previously heard
right, well,
that
Russia was invited in
on
the behest of the Syrian government. We need to point that out, of course, that on behalf of the government, Russia is there in the country.
Yes, and that by itself, if we're talking about the relationship between the two countries, Russia is giving Russia didn't give one defense system to the Syrians, but they gave a whole lot of others. And I don't think it will make Israelis say, well, the Russians are playing unfair. We do understand that Russia has its own interests, and like we heard before, Russia is trying to be okay with all the sides, and that's very difficult and very delicate work that has to be done there. But I don't think Israel can always tell every single country when it's acting in order to defend itself. And I think to cynically say, Israel is doing it too often, no, the reality of the matter is that Iran is having its proxies all over Syria and Lebanon. They're very open about it. They are trying on a daily basis to have different ammunition come into the region, which will change the balance of powers, which will, by the way, make it a lot more difficult for Russia to be a fair player for all sides. So yes, Israel will have to defend itself.
No, I was just pointing out that out of 200 attacks, Russia was told about 25. I'm just giving the facts for that part. Is there any chance that you think Israel and Russia will be able to maintain the same level of cooperation after the tragedy? Because they have been working together. You look at the Golan Heights issue, you look at Jewish settlements, Jewish cultural areas in Aleppo in Syria that was protected by Russia. There was a lot going on. How do you see this progressing now?
Well, I just want to answer your comment about giving a heads up to the Russians before Israel commits an attack. I'm not sure why that's so necessary. Again, according to the Israeli
Well, when the Russian military is in the area, I'll just say that, then you can have your say.
Yeah, the Russian is in the area, and Israel has never attacked the Russians. The missile that attacked the Russians was from a Russian system fired by the Syrians. So that's the uniqueness of this incident. Do I think that both countries can maintain this relationship? First of all, I surely hope so. We value that relationship, and I'm actually very optimistic because I think for the long run it is in Russia's interest and it is in Israel's interest to maintain a good relationship. I think that the Russians do not want to take a clear side on that matter, which is why they do sell different missile systems to the Syrians. This is why they sell different ammunition to the Iranian regime, but they also try not to do anything that will change the balance of powers. Russia has an interest in that region, in this region, which is obvious. Syria is their path to the Mediterranean Sea, and Israelis understand that. We don't expect the Russians to be, an undivided supporter of Israel. However, we have to remember the only reason why Syria still exists, the horrible Assad regime, the only reason why it exists is because of Russia. So we understand that the Russians have an interest, we also have our interest, and I believe personally as an Israeli citizen that both countries can and should maintain this very strong relationship.
The thoughts of Bar Yoshafat, international relations expert, live on the programme from Jerusalem this hour. Thank you.